So this is crazy. I think we've been waiting so long for Waitress to happen in Mexico. Now it's actually happening, and seeing you two here together, it's just blowing my mind. I can't even begin to imagine how you're feeling, Aitza. Tell me about it.
Estaba muy nerviosa. La verdad es que me cayó el 20 hoy en la mañana. Ya después de que me arreglara y todo eso, dije, es la primera vez que voy a conocer a Sara. Que está haciendo un sueño hecho realidad. Tú sabes. Está haciendo un sueño hecho realidad que Waitress esté aquí. Está haciendo un sueño hecho realidad ser Jenna. Está haciendo un sueño hecho realidad conocer a Sara y que ya por fin se esté materializando lo que he venido deseando y pidiéndole al universo desde hace tanto tiempo.
Okay, so many great actresses have played Jenna. I mean, Jessie Mueller and Catherine McPhee and Shoshana Bean, and of course yourself. What is it that you look for in the next Jenna, the actress that's gonna play Jenna?
Soul. Like heart and soul, and that's something that we saw in Aitza's audition, like immediately. Jenna, and of course she changes, whomever the interpreter is, but the quality that I love, it actually lives in the song. She describes the things that I love about her, and it's she's messy, but she's kind. She's a complicated character, but I think at her core, she's doing the best she can. She's doing the best she can, and she makes mistakes, but she's trying to do the best she can. And I do think that sense of just that realism and that truth, that's what I look for. And Aitza had that, and then you have to be able to sing it.
En la que recibimos muchos comentarios, y desde antes que supiéramos que Waitress venía, el comentario siempre era, si Waitress sucede, tiene que ser Aitza.
Cuando me enteré que iba a ser yo, que no fue hace mucho tiempo, fue casi como un mes antes de empezar a ensayar, fue de ya, vamos full contigo, eres nuestra Jenna, pues ya fue como, ok, ni siquiera como que me dio tiempo ni de ponerme nerviosa, ya sabes, porque estábamos a un mes de empezar ensayos, entonces fue enfocarme totalmente, empezar como un poquito a mentalizarme y prepararme emocional, física y mentalmente para lo que venía, que iba a ser una jornada de trabajo fuerte, marchas forzadas, porque teníamos poco tiempo para montar todo, entonces sí, era enfocarme mucho en mi salud y en el personaje.
She Used to Be Mine has become this sort of an anthem, like a staple for musical theater people. When did you realize, or how did you realize, like, oh, this song is taking Broadway by storm?
I think one of the things that you start to notice is just when people want to be singing a song they love, and I just started to see, like, on Instagram and on Twitter, and I was just seeing people cover the song more and more and more, and then all of a sudden it was on American Idol, and it's on The Voice, and it's on TV. Like, there was just this connection happening with the song itself that was even outside of the connection to the show, and that was surprising. When I first wrote the song, I shared it in a concert, and I remember feeling nervous because of the lyrics that I actually talk about pie, which not a lot of pop songs talk about pie. And I was really surprised because people very immediately were connecting to that song. As a songwriter, oh my God, it's the greatest gift. That's what you hope for, is that a song will sort of take on a life of its own. And it continues to surprise me.
Y tú la vas a estar cantando She Used to Be Mine oficialmente en el escenario. ¿Cómo es eso para ti? ¿Es una canción que impone? ¿Es la que cantabas en la regadera?
Es de mis canciones favoritas, sin duda. Y cuando la canté por primera vez fue justo en la pandemia, desde el encierro, me acuerdo. Y me costó un trabajo, grabé 10,000 videos, ninguno me gustaba como para mandarlo para ese momento. Pero aparte ahí fue cuando logré hacer como una conexión pues muy profunda con esa canción, ¿sabes? Ahorita es un poco diferente porque ya está con el contexto de toda la obra, ¿no? La disfruto muchísimo, pero también es el momento en el que siento que puedo fluir porque no tengo que hacer como mucha acción escénica. Entonces es un regalo, para mí llegar a ese momento es un regalo porque simplemente tienes que estar y tienes que conectar con lo que estás diciendo y me parece bellísimo.
And I do have to ask, just because it's so funny to me, but I think when you see Waitress, you immediately fall in love with this quirky couple like Don and Augie. How did you come up when writing their song? How did you come up with table as a metaphor? Like I love it I love it like a table. This is it. Like how did that happen?
I didn't know what I was doing. I just was, one of the wonderful things about working on Waitress was that this was a huge left turn for me. I've been writing pop songs for records that I was aiming for to get on the radio. It was, very different. And then I got given this material and it all felt so playful. And so Ogie and Dawn in particular, like talk about just the sky's the limit. How silly do you want to go? And what I love about I Love You Like a Table, I was just trying to think of like, he's a terrible poet. He's a terrible poet. He tries, and he's got this big heart and he loves her so much, but he's just gonna say it in the worst way. And then I love that she also finds it very endearing and charming, but I'm like, what would a terrible poet be like? I love you like a table. That's not romantic at all, but thank you. Go on.
I love it. And I think Waitress is so universal, but it also speaks directly to people who have gone through some kind of domestic violence. So for both of you, how do you prepare when knowing that what you're presenting is going to resonate so much with someone in such a personal manner?
Well, first of all, you want to just come to it with truth and generosity towards people who find themselves in that situation, knowing that it is so much more common than we even think. There are so many people in this situation that you don't even know, you would never register. And I always think about, this is one version of that, and a horrible version of that, but there are lots of ways we get made small by other people's ideas of us, and I think that it's our job to tell this story with, dangling the carrot of hope that it's like things can change. We need help. We need to ask for help. And we need to believe in the possibility that things could look different. But it is tender because it's very, complicated. People end up in these kinds of situations in all kinds of ways. And so we try to hold that with a lot of reverence and respect because that's a very difficult position to be in.
Creo que la obra siento que está tan bien balanceada que no es no te vas a un lado ni al otro. O sea, creo que tiene el balance perfecto justo para que te rías, para que llores y para que cuando llegan esos momentos en los que te sientes identificado o que de pronto son momentos incómodos, lo tomas y luego pasa, ¿sabes? Pero sí se te queda con algo. Es muy chistoso porque luego lo podemos sentir. Yo como actriz, arriba del escenario, cuando el público se empieza a poner incómodo, cuando hay silencios incómodos y de pronto el público está incómodo con la situación que está viendo, empiezan a haber sonidos que de pronto no hay en la audiencia en otros momentos, ¿sabes? Entonces eso está generando incomodidad de estar viendo eso, o porque ya quieres que pase ese momento para los que están ahí arriba o porque te estás sintiendo identificado y algo está llegando a profundidades. Y creo que eso es lo bonito del teatro, ¿no? O sea, cómo nos espejeamos, pero también podemos sacarle también provecho a esa situación y en los mejores casos tomar acción.
Claro. And it's also about motherhood, not so much being a mom as in knowing you're becoming one. And I think that that has so many mixed feelings, like excitement, but also anxiety.
Sure.
And I guess Waitress, what's trying to tell us is it's okay to feel worried or overwhelmed, And that's also something we need to hear.
I think especially to honor Adrienne Shelley, at the time it was very brave to tell a story about a woman who did not want to be pregnant. And I think what I love, I mean, ultimately Jenna makes the choice to keep the baby, but ultimately I think this story is making room for the possibility that it doesn't look one way, and that the idea, even though she makes one choice, that there's no judgment around choice. It's around everyone's personal journey, every mother's personal journey. And I do think it's really bold to have a protagonist say, like, I don't want this baby. You know, I think a lot of women go through that, you know, and I think it's not a story that's told very often. And it makes people feel less alone. It's a huge identity shift. There is a lot that changes. There is a lot that goes away, and yes, it's beautiful and it's also hard. It's both. So I think making room for the nuance, you know, life doesn't really live in a black and white, even though we do. But you know, life is all gray matter. It's all the nuance, all the in between.
We're living in this era of musical adaptations from film to stage. What would you say, both of you, what would you say are the perfect ingredients in the recipe to a great musical adaptation?
Ooh. That's an interesting question. What would you say?
Ivan. You
know what I think is one thing that we learned? It needs to be its own thing. Like, you can't directly... There are musical adaptations that I've seen that almost just are exact replicas, and it's not that they're bad. It just... I think the musical... It's a different art form. So I think lifting up off of the idea that it has to be an exact replica, I think partially is what works for Waitress. Like, the film is beautiful, and because you see the musical, it doesn't mean you should still go watch the film. The film is beautiful. Like, to allow them to be different, I think, is one thing that's really helpful. And I always respond to things that just have heart. Like, I wear my heart on my sleeve, and I love things that are about ache and romance and humor and heart. You know, good people who make mistakes. I love a messy world.
Okay.
Pues yo creo que tener una gran escritora, a great songwriter, que entienda justo la esencia de los personajes, y que esa esencia de los personajes va un poquito más allá, ¿no? O sea, la manera en la que Sara profundizó lo que sentían los personajes y cómo transmitirlos con las canciones, creo que para mí eso ha sido clave en Waitress, ¿no? Las canciones son hermosas, pero aparte son pegajosas, pero aparte te dicen mucho del personaje, de lo que está pensando, lo que está sintiendo, y eso, como tener ese entendimiento tan profundo de los personajes. Waitress México, estamos en el Teatro San Rafael, los jueves, viernes, sábados y domingos. Boletos en Go Live, y ahí está también los horarios de cada función. Y bueno, vengan a vernos.